Hello artists, welcome to another video. Today is a fun one. This is the 2023 Superstar Products end of the year lineup. The art supplies that I have absolutely loved this year and that I have used a lot. I'm going to hopefully do a 3-part series of this because, there is quite a lot to talk about. I am if you don't know me, hi, welcome. My name is Irit. I'm an intuitive mixed media artist based in Austria in Europe. And on my channel, I share all my artsy adventures. And I paint with several mediums, predominantly with watercolors and recently gouache and mixed media. But I also use acrylic, and I have used it quite a bit this year. And so this video is going to focus on mixed media, paint, pencils, and such, as well as tools and surfaces. So I hope you will join me and make sure you subscribe. Let's get started. I'm going to start with paint, then other drawing mediums, then tools, and then surfaces. If you want me to make also a video about specific colors that are my favorite in acrylic, let me know in the comments. I probably will do one for watercolors, but I haven't decided yet if I want to do one on acrylic. So let me know what you think. So for me, hands down, without a doubt, the big winner of this year was the discovery of Flash paints. These are French paints. They are classified as vinyl paints, which means that their formulation is a little bit different from my understanding than acrylic paints. In practice, I feel it is exactly the same. I use them with acrylic paints. I don't really see a difference. As for Lightfast ratings, you can find this on their website, I think, but I don't really see much of a difference. Usually these things depend on a particular pigment, and as far as I see, these are standard pigments that are used also in acrylic paints. But again, I'm not an expert, so make sure you check. I know these are used by many artists, and so I feel comfortable using them. They come in jars, glass jars, or tubes. The tubes are 80 milliliters. The jars are 125, and I know there are bigger jars. I kind of use them both. The jars are fun to use, but if you do a lot of color mixing, then, the tubes are much more convenient. But the greatness of this range is the formulation. There are many matte acrylic paints, but these perform better, in my opinion, when it comes to layering other mediums on top of them, such as pastels and pencils. And so that's why for me, these are my absolute #1 favorites. I only use other brands because either they are cheaper, more widely available for me, I have to order these online, or if I use another color, it's because of the specific shade. But if I could have this formula for all of my favorite colors, that is definitely what I would choose. If you want a matte acrylic paint that handles other mediums on top of it, then try these. They are beautiful, lovely. I really can't see myself not using them. Moving on to other paints that I can't live without. They are some of the Holbein acrylic paint. Holbein is very famous for their Acrylic gouache paint, which is an acrylic paint with a matte finish, and that one is nice. I don't like that it has such small bottles, and I don't think the formula is as good as Flash paints, but the color range is fantastic. However, I found that they have a few colors called luminous. There are a few more, and even though these are in their regular heavy body acrylic range, they are also matte, and the colors are very bright. And I like to use the luminous red and luminous rose are my favorite shades. This is a new tube because I just ran out of a tube. I can't really, like, I don't like any other pink as much as I like this one. And as I said, they're also matte. The formulation is quite similar. You can layer other materials on top, so it's very similar. But the other colors in this range that are not luminous are not matte. So I just want to say that. These are not so easy to find. I find them at Pastels Out, which is a shop in Berlin, Germany. But they are not so widely available, at least not where I am. So check your local stores or favorite online places. Now, two brands that I want to mention, because for me in Europe, I'm in Austria, they are very, very widely available and very economical, and they also have nice colors, are the Amsterdam acrylic. These are from Royal Talents in the Netherlands, and then Lukas, which are German. And the great thing about them is that they come in really large packages. I don't know if, I think, yeah, they're definitely like larger containers than this one, this tube, which is 120 mils. And Lukas has tubes, bottles, and then larger bottles. This one I think is the 250. I'm not sure if there's a larger one, but these are very, very economical. They are not matte, but they are a great choice if you're on a budget, or if you just want to like experiment and not feel precious about your colors. I do feel precious about these because they are harder to find and they're more expensive. And with these, I really feel comfortable, at least maybe like the first layers of a painting that will be covered. I feel a bit more comfortable, less precious with these. So I wanted to mention them. I know these are also available in the US. Here in Austria, they are kind of like the best options. I think the only thing cheaper are the house brands, which sometimes I get, but these are my favorite. Both of these lines also have really great color choices. To those, I like specialized colors, so those colors that are not just, ultramarine and raw sienna, like those basics. They also have just other really pretty colors. So that was paint. I will just mention, because this is kind of like paint, I will mention the Molotow markers. These are acrylic markers, and I have a dedicated video for them. So if you want to hear more about them, check that video out. For me, they are the best that I've tried. My preferred size is, it's called 1 for All acrylic. And my favorite size is the 2 millimeter. I'll show you the tip. It's just, for me, it feels like I can get, for me personally, this is kind of the Goldilocks size, not too big, not too small. If you're not sure which one you like, then just, order one color, like, I don't know, white or a color you really love in different sizes and try them. The 2 millimeter is my favorite. I have a couple of the other sizes and they're either too big or too small. I don't like them as much. The quality here is amazing. The colors are great. And I just prefer them to the Posca or the Liquitex that are very, very popular. I think Posca is like the most popular one. I think these are better. These are German. Not that that's connected. Where are you from, Posca? Oh, these are made in Japan. Okay, we have here a battle of engineering between Japanese engineering and German. I would say in this case, the Germans win, and I prefer this one. I just find it performs better. It is more reliable. That has been my experience. And factually, I just know that once I discovered these, I started using them so much more than I ever used my Posca markers. I love, love, love these. Highly recommend them if you like acrylic markers. They work on top of everything. These will work on top of every acrylic paint that you buy. So, if you have acrylic paints, you have a brand you like, you don't want to start over with a different brand, then these are incredibly versatile and would work on top of everything. Let's move on to other mediums, and these are, I think I mention them all the time because they're that good. These are the Caran Neocolor 1 and 2. These are wax pastels. Caran is a Swiss brand, and the Neocolor 1s are not water soluble. The Neocolor 2 are. And so I find the Neocolor 2 to be a little bit more versatile if you want that quality. And I think the formulation is a little bit softer, just like a little bit softer than the Neocolor 1s. I prefer to use the Neocolor 1, but I will use the Neocolor 2s, especially for colors that don't exist in the Neocolor 1 range. For some reason, there are, I think, about like half of the colors in the Neocolor 1, I think just because they're not as popular. So maybe the brand, it's not worth it for them to make all the colors. Both are amazing. I use them all the time. I do recommend buying, you know, with the markers and the paints and these and pencils, with the one exception that I will mention. I do recommend buying these open stock so you can really pick and choose your favorite colors, because these are not cheap. And so I would hate for you to, you know, buy a set and then a set of these or a set of these and then not use all the colors, because they're, you know, they're excellent quality but also expensive. And so just pick the colors that really speak to you. I've collected this for years and years and years, and I think now I have all the colors that I like, and I use these all the time. They last a really long time. They are super user-friendly, kind of the least messy pastels out there, and I just love them, and they have been a favorite for a long time, but really this year I think I've used them more than I've used them in the previous years. And speaking of pastels, I just wanted to mention this because I do feel this is kind of a unique product that maybe people are not familiar with, and I feel like this could be a good gateway drug to oils. No, I feel like I'm talking about the Sennelier oil sticks, not to be confused with oil pastels. These are different products. This is oil paint in stick form, and it will eventually dry and curate usually after a few days. Oil pastels do not, like ever. You need to use a fixative, and I've had very partial success with that. And so sadly, I moved on to use these, and I say sadly because first of all, they're quite expensive. They come in less colors than oil pastels, and you need to peel the outer layer because this is oil paint. The outer layer will dry. So if you want to use it, you have to kind of peel it or like scrape it. And that to me is one step that I have to do to use them. And sometimes that keeps me from using such products. However, I don't think you can get this effect with any other material except actual oil paint, which I think a lot of us are just not comfortable using or we don't want to use. And this is just a great way. The way that I like to use them is as final accents layers in mixed media paintings, and I'll show you a little example soon. And they're just less of a hassle than, you know, pulling out oil paints, but they're still a little bit of a hassle, as I said, to like scrape that outer layer. But they are very, very unique, and I just think they add a little extra something that you can't really add otherwise. So I did want to mention them, and I hope I can find a way to make them a bit more user-friendly for myself. So we'll see. If you have any suggestions, maybe I should first of all take them out of these boxes, because that's another annoying thing to do. Okay, lastly, before we move on to tools, I want to mention pencils. This also has been the year of the pencils. I used acrylic markers and wax pastels and pencils so much more this year, also with my watercolors, but also with other mediums. And I really, really love them. My favorite brands are the Prismacolors, and this is the exception that I mentioned before. The Prismacolor huge set is probably the only supply that I recommend just getting the set, because I just think their colors are really, really beautiful, like all the colors. They do so well with even their like neutrals and softer colors and brighter colors. I really love them all, and so I think that the big set is an excellent investment. Of course, if you can't afford it, you can buy them open stock or you can buy a smaller set. But the big set is really a good deal because it costs, I recently checked on Amazon, it was less than $100 and you get 130 pencils. So that's less than $1 per pencil, which is a really great price. I love them. I use them all the time, and I really feel like no other pencil compares, with the exception of the Derwent Drawing pencils that look like this. The problem for me is the colors. They only come in 24 colors, and they are all very, very kind of more muted. And so I love these and I use them all the time, but they don't satisfy all my color needs. And so I do need the Prismacolors as well. These are also Formula Perfection. I prefer softer pencils. And so also the Prismacolors and the Derwent Drawing, they work really well for me because I love that formula. And then when it comes to regular pencils, really my favorite currently is the Black Wing. I just really like it. I don't know, something about the lead. The pencil is really pretty and kind of has that unique eraser. It just feels nice to use it. And yeah, I really like it. I also have other pencils that I enjoy, but this has been kind of my go-to this past year. Let's move on to tools. I really came to the understanding and the conclusion this year that I don't like working with brushes. I do sometimes work with brushes because I don't feel like I can completely give them up, but whenever possible, I use other tools that don't require me washing them in water. They only need wiping, and these are my favorite. These are like silicone wedges. I use ones made by one of the shops that I locally kind of buy from. This is it, but I know other brands make something similar. This one is my favorite size. This is 1.5 inch, almost 4 centimeters, so 3.8 centimeters. That's my favorite size, but you can see they come in other sizes and I use them all. You know, the larger you work, the nicer it is to have sometimes a larger tool. You can just peel off the paint once it's dry, and I really love it. So those are kind of my go-to with acrylics. And then I also like when I'm using something heavier or even oil paints, which I've been using a little bit this past year. I like palette knives. I prefer the metal ones. The plastic ones don't feel so nice. They break. It's just not the same. And you can find a ton of different shapes and they really last forever. Let's talk about surfaces. So when it comes to watercolor, because I have so much more experience with watercolors and I've been painting predominantly with watercolors for the past years, also my preferences are kind of much clearer. With acrylics, I still haven't found that one surface that I absolutely fall in love with, but this is kind of as good as it gets for me. And these are wood panels that you can see how it looks. You have the wooden panel and then you have a frame, and I actually prefer the frames that are not insanely thick. The ones that are very thick, I have a few hanging on my walls. They're really fun to work on, but I don't know if I really like how they look on the wall. I think I still prefer these, and you can still have fun with the edges and kind of use them as well. I don't know. I'm still undecided, and I feel like if you wanted to frame these, then it would be easier to frame these ones than the ones that are really, really thick. I think the process will be probably similar to framing a canvas that is stretched. So yeah, but what I like about the wooden panels is how hard they are. And I just find it more enjoyable, especially, actually with everything, also with paint application, but then especially when you go in with pencils and pastels. It's really nice to have a very, very hard surface as opposed to canvas, which just has a little bit of give, even, you know, if they're stretched quite taut. I don't know. I just find this a lot more enjoyable. Also, there's something about the way that the pencils kind of work on top of the surfaces. I don't know. I find it very enjoyable. And here I also want to show you the oil sticks, how they look. So you see, it just has a different texture, and I don't think you could get these with a different medium. So I wanted to show you. I really love it, and I use it really as kind of the final layer because you can't really layer anything on top of them. So they need to be the last things that go on your painting. You could use a heavy body paint, like acrylic paint. I don't know, it doesn't look like this. This has a little bit more of that pastel-y texture to it, I feel. So this is really kind of my favorite surface to work on with acrylic paints and mixed media. Another thing I want to mention is like these gesso boards. What I like working on these, and they tend to be cheaper than these. But what I don't like about them is you can't just hang them on the wall. You have to frame them, and you have to like take them to a special person that frames them, as far as I know. I mean, let me know if, as far as I know, I can't just like buy a frame and frame this. But maybe I'm wrong, so let me know in the comments. These are also fun to paint on. You know, they're very sturdy. You can really pile on the paint and have a lot of fun with them. But yeah, for me, that framing issue is kind of the annoyance of these. I have a few that I really need to kind of figure out what to do with them. And that is it with my mixed media favorite video. I hope you enjoyed it, and make sure you check out all the series of this year's favorite. Thank you so much for watching, and have a wonderful day.